Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming back at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my Napoleonic project update. My project updates normally just let you know what figures I've completed, how we're progressing towards maybe a specific scenario, terrain, rule systems, etc. Well, in today's update, what I'd like to do is show off the latest units that I just finished. I have 4 regiments I completed, and these are, I know it's hard to believe, but these are Old Glory 15mm French Napoleonic in greatcoats. This is the 108th Regiment, 1st Battalion, 108th Regiment. This is a GMB 15mm flag and Litco bases. They are mounted on 15mm by 40mm bases. There are 6 bases here. This is what I'm going to be using as a battalion in my game that I am writing. Once I show all the regiments, then we'll show a little bit about the units, and I'll get rid of this mirror piece. Okay, let me pull out another regiment for you to see. All right, now this is the 3rd Line Battalion. All these figures that I'm showing you today came from my Christmas collection. I ordered a bunch of Old Glory over Christmas, and I've been waiting to decide my base convention, and once I figured that out, then I decided it was, and plus I was waiting to finish my World War II project that I was working on because of the convention coming up. And so I decided, since I'm writing the rules, I need to get some figures so that I can play test myself on my own table to work out game mechanics like shooting and melee and things like that. So this is the 3rd, and I'm also doing I'm making formations for Quatre Bras. So these will all be part of the 2nd Corps. And you'll notice that 2 battalions, whoa, I just smacked it around. 2 battalions came in a single bag. So you got 48 models, 2 command groups, with your standards and your drummers and your officers, and also this one has, well, they all have the Porte-Glare, or whatever they're called. It's the guy that protects the standard, and then you also get an NCO that I have over here in my Grenadier group. You'll notice that it comes with enough elites that I could have done 4-figure Grenadiers and a 4-figure Voltigeur. So this worked out perfect for me, and I'm really happy the way they turned out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I really appreciate that. Okay, so that was the 3rd Regiment. These are all going to be 1st Battalions. So let me go ahead and get out my next group. All right, guys, and this is my 1st Regiment, 1st Battalion, 1st Regiment. Now, you'll notice that there are those 2 elite companies for every battalion. And then, of course, a little command stand with the drummer, the leader, the standard bearer, and the guard, right? Technically, there should be 2 guards, but you only get one. You only get enough to do one, which is fine for me. it means that I've got a 4-figure command stand, and that's perfect. Grenadiers are pretty much universal pom-poms and epaulets on every battalion, pretty much universal. But the Voltigears were special. The Voltigears, and these Voltigears are not finished, and I'm about to tell you why. I just kind of realized this last night. They should have red tips on the tops of their pom-poms. I knew that. I even wrote that down when I was painting. I just went over that. Where every Voltigear company in each battalion, basically, like every regiment, their Voltigears had a unique pom-pom design. Some of them even had different color epaulets. Like these are yellow, and you'll notice that the ones over here are green. And so you have to do a little research, and I use a website that breaks down all the uniforms for all the units that were at Waterloo, and these guys were at Waterloo as well. Anybody in the battle that I'm doing, Quatre Bras, they were also at Waterloo. So you'll notice, what I'm trying to say is, you'll notice that the Voltigears are really the only different thing. And the point I was trying to get to was the additional companies in the back. There are usually four companies in a battalion. The Fusilier companies, the riflemen or whatever they call them. They had 4 pom-pom colors. You had the orange, the violet, and the blue. But there's also a 4th color, which is green. And and because I only need 3 in a battalion, I opt not to use the green one. And the reason why is I don't want you to, or the player, when they're playing, I don't want them to get them confused with the Voltigears, because a lot of Voltigears will have green pom-poms as well. Sometimes yellow, sometimes green and yellow, sometimes yellow and red, whatever. But I don't want them to have any reservations. All right, now this was the first. Let me go ahead and get out my last one. All right, now the last one I decided to do is the 72nd Regiment. And you can see that they've got green epaulets, green pom-poms with the yellow tips on the Voltigears. And then you got your orange, your blue, and your violet companies. And also you get your drummer, your officer, your standard bearer, and your Eagle Guard, Eagle Protector. These guys came out really well. I'm very happy with the way they turned out. They almost look like my 28mm guys. These guys are remarkably well done. I'm very happy with them. All right, so this was the 72nd, all part of 2nd Corps. Now I've decided to jump on and do some cavalry, mainly so that I could decide the basing and like figure count and stuff like that. So let me go ahead and turn this off, remove this spinner turntable, and I just want to show you the 4 battalions all together. All right, so here are the 4 battalions in their glory. Now I went ahead and put them in a formation that I plan to identify as march column. This is going to be on the march, or whatever they call it, column of march. But I'm just going to call it march column. There's going to be, let me kind of slide this off to the side and slide that off to the side, not too far, there we go. Slide that one. We'll work with this one. If I was to do a an attack column, what I would do is have two figures, two bases wide, and then 3 bases deep. Right? So there would be your attack column, right? Where these are columns of march. And then if I was to form a line, it would be 3 wide and 2 deep, right? So just like what we saw on the spinner. That would be my line formation. So you would not ever extend them out single file like that. That's not ever going to be any kind of formation. It's always going to be 2 bases deep. Now I considered, this is just, you probably already know this if you watch my Wargaming Wednesday. You already know that I debated on whether or not I just wanted to do 40 by 30 and just put 8 figures, make this a single base like that. It would be a lot easier for movement, but you could only form 2 formations like that. You could form this with 3 bases deep, or you could form line with 3 bases wide. But if you wanted to make an attack column, you could not do it unless you split just 2 of your bases, Now I could have, as an alternative, I could do a single base like this, a single base like this, and then 2 additional bases like this. And I could have made them maybe the elite companies. Right? I could have put the line companies together, because those would represent the 4 line companies. And then I could split these off. So when they form line, it could go like that. But when you form column, you just take these 2 bases and put them back here. And then when you go to march, you could do that. You could do that, right? That would, I debated with whether or not to do that or not. But I decided against it. I decided just to go ahead and put everybody on a 1 company scale base. And one of the reasons why I did that is because I want my battalions to be able to be have variable strengths or variable sizes, and so I've decided on a small, medium, and large battalion size. And a small battalion would look like that, right? And then a medium battalion would look like that, and then your large battalion would look like that, right? So in the case of this, again, you could put them all on a single base, because you're just going like this for your attack column, right? And then you're just putting them all, and you're only going like this for line. So there would be no problem. But the issue comes in is when I'm trying to do a smaller battalion like this. How do I make an attack column? I've decided that they can't form attack column because there's just not enough men. But that doesn't really make sense, right? Because I don't know. I'm still debating on that. I was thinking maybe maybe do something like that, or even something like that. I been considering doing something like this. It's not a line, it's not a march column, it's an attack column. You can't do something like this without being able to go individual bases. So you've got to have some individual single bases. And so that's something I'm working with. But I think a single stand representing like basically 100 men or a company is going to work out really well. Now, I've got some cavalry. I'm still working on them. I've got some guys primed. They're not even finished being primed. That's only the spray portion. I usually go over the spray with a brush primer to fill in any gaps in the primer, and then I'll get to painting those. I'll get to painting those today. Cavalry, I decided to go with a 2-figure base on a 30 millimeter 30 by 30. Remember, these 2 figures or a line formation, that's 30 millimeters in depth. So a cavalry single base will be the same depth as the infantry, but they will be only as wide as 3 of these figures. So that works out very well when it comes to a 12-figure cavalry base or cavalry unit. And that's what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for 12 figures for a cavalry unit. So now I considered 16, but I don't know if I'm going to go 16. I'm still thinking about that. I think it's going to be a 12 for a standard and maybe a 16 for a large. Because, again, with 12 figures, 2 figures per base, you're getting a 6-base unit, which is the same as these guys. It's just shaped differently. And then you can go large with 2 additional bases, or you could go small with 2 less bases. Now, I can tell you right now, I'm leaning towards no such thing as a large cavalry unit, because just pretend this is a cavalry unit, okay? 30 millimeters size bases, right? And if I have 6 bases, the cavalry unit will be able to form a line. It wouldn't be this long because they would only be 30 millimeters, right? So it would be a little bit shorter than this. Actually, how much? Okay, let me get some 30 millimeter bases. It'll be easier to explain it that way. All right, guys, so these are 30 millimeter bases. Now, if this was an infantry unit in line, and I took 6 cavalry bases, which, remember, these are each with 2 figures on them, and I did a 6-figure cavalry line. That's cavalry. That's my infantry. Now I'm going to give cavalry the option of doing a 2-figure line, right? So they can do a 2-rank line. So this would still be considered a cavalry line. And then there's no such thing as a cavalry column like this. Yes, there would be in the brigade scale or multiple battalions, but as a battalion, they're not going to be forming any kind of march or not any kind of an attack column. That's not what cavalry does. But they would form a march column, right? So again, single figures in one after the single file. That's march column. three figure by 2 figure, what they would call a deep line, and then you would have your regular line. And I'll probably give modifiers for all of those for attacking and defending and stuff like that. Okay, so now talking about size of units, this would be my small unit, because I'm going to go small, medium, and large. This would be, no, not this. This would be a small unit, 8 figures, right? And they can still form line, deep line, and march column. That's not a problem. And I thought about, you know, the medium is the 6 figures, right? Six spaces. But if I go large, I think I want to say that there's no such thing as a large cavalry formation. This would need to be split up into 2 small units. I don't think there should ever be a large cavalry formation like that. For one thing, it's very big on the table. It's exactly the same size as an infantry unit, by the way. And this would be 16 models, right? I considered it. There are some units out there that are fairly large, like, let's look at the Lancers of Lefebvre's division has like 1,000 cavalry in one brigade, but that brigade is made up of like 4 squadrons. So why? And I'm thinking that a squadron is going to be basically 2 bases. I'm thinking, and if that 1,000 figure brigade is, it shouldn't be that way. I think it should be independent squadrons, or half, or like 2 squadrons or something like that. I don't want to have tiny cavalry units running around individual squadrons. I definitely don't want to do that. So I would break it up like this. I think I should break it up like that. But I think that should really maybe be the player's decision if they want it, because that way I could do like Dutch Lancers and Polish Lancers. Or we could do, like, I could still paint these up as Dutch Lancers and paint these up as Polish Lancers and just put them as a large group. But that, I'm kind of debating on whether or not I want to do large cavalry. And if so, how many men is a large cavalry unit? I'm still thinking that a base is about 100 figures or 100 men, but it probably should be less, because first of all, there's only 2 figures, right? But it's occupying less space than, no, that's not true. If each of these are 25, this would be 6 figures, right? So that would be what, 150 men? So maybe 100 men would be okay. But with the horses and everything, I'm thinking it should be halved. So I'm thinking maybe 75. Maybe the cavalry bases should be about 75 men. And if that's the case, you're looking at 150, 300, right? 450, 600. That's a 600 man unit. And I think I could work with that. That's I think that's okay, but I still haven't made my decision yet. And artillery, I've noticed that depending on the manufacturer of your gun, the gun itself might be slightly different sizes. Now, I understand there's 6-pounders, 12-pounders, 8-pounders, 4-pounders, 20-pounders even. But I looked at like Minifig, Old Glory, Essex. I can't remember. There was another brand I was looking at. And all these 15 millimeter cannons, I wanted 6-pounders, and they were all different sizes. The 12-pounders, a bigger cannon, is going to have a bigger discrepancy of sizes. So what I'm planning on doing is taking a look at all the ones that I personally have, looking at the largest model, maybe a probably Essex, but I'm still going to take a look at those, the largest model, and then I'm going to try to figure out what the best size base is for that model. Instead of a gun in depth, right, the gun figure in depth, like imagine, okay, that's 60 by 90. I know I use normally 60 by 80 in black powder, but imagine a 60 by, I mean, it would be about like that, right? A 60 by 80, right? And you put a gun model on there, and you can put your crew. That works out really well for black powder. And then a lot of players will use two cannons side by side to represent a battery, right? And if you think about it, a 60 by 80 with two guns would represent 120 by 80. So what they've effectively done is corrected the mistake of basing them in line by making it a wider frontage for a battery, which is accurate. The battery are guns all sitting side by side. They're not, it's not like infantry where they got guys in front and behind and there's multiple files. No, there would be like 6 guns across the front, 6 to 8 guns across the front. So I think personally that a battery should be wider than depth. Something like this. Not with this many bases. It's going to be one solid base, and it's going to be much smaller because it's 15 millimeter. But imagine a single gun on a wide base with the crew on there, right? That's what I think I'm going to do, and that's going to represent 6 to 8 guns across there. Now, if you've got a small, like a half battery or something like that, I would still just put one model out and just call it a half battery, because it would be like four guns, instead of making like a smaller base for a half battery. Now the issue is I want the gun to be able to fit on there, and I don't want the gun to overlap, like stick out. I mean, if it sticks out a little bit, that's okay, but I don't want it to be, I want the base to be able to fit the largest 12-pounder, right? Or I don't have any 20-pounders. I really don't usually play Russians. But if there's a 12-pounder and it would fit on a 30 millimeter depth and a 40 millimeter width, I would like that. That would make it the same width as the infantry. But I'm actually considering a 30 by 50 or 60. So I want the base to be definitively wider. But my roads are designed for 40 millimeter, and I think I want to put my guns in on 30 or 40 millimeter base width. If I really want to get wild, I could break the battery into two bases. A lot like, you know, the guys that already do that for black powder. They make two stands for an artillery battery, and then it'll have two guns. One of my main concerns of doing that is aesthetics. I want it to look right. I don't want it, I'm not gamifying it as much as a lot of people would like. I'm appealing to the visuals more than I am the gamifying. So would two guns look better? I think it, well, of course it would. It would be more grand, right? Well, if that's the case, what I'll do is I'll shrink the frontage as much as I can, so that when I put two bases together, there's 60 millimeters right there, right? Instead of making that a single base with a single cannon, well, hell, back up. I could make this a single base with two cannons, one on each base, or one on each side of the base, and then just mix crew and all kinds of stuff on there. But then when it comes to formation, this is obviously what I would consider unlimbered, right? There's two guns firing. But if you make it into two bases, then you could say that is limbered, right? You could say that is limbered, and then you get a limber base and put it on there, and then that brigade or battery is limbered. That would be unlimbered. When I get to my cannons, I'll let you know what I've decided. But right now, I've definitely decided on infantry, 15 by 40s. I've decided on cavalry, being two figures on a 30 by 30, because it works out. I thought about 40 by 40. I thought about 30 by 40, even putting 3 horses on a base. I thought about putting getting just big bases and putting multiple horses. I've even considered 2 ranks of horses in depth, you know, with a single base like this. Like, just take one of my 30 by 60s and turn it sideways, and then just put or even go old school Napoleon's battles and go with a 1 inch by 2 inch, and then, because that would be a 25 by 50, and then I could put 4 figures. I thought about that, but then I would only have 3 bases representing my battalions, right? And I wouldn't be able to get them to form the extended line. And I want them to be able to form an extended line. So we're going 30 by 30. All right, well, that was my Napoleonic project update in 15 millimeter. Check us out every Wednesday, where I have a live stream where Wednesday at 11 a.m. I stream live for a couple of hours, just whatever project that I'm working on. I talk about my mindset for Napoleonics, my mindset for World War II or American War of Independence, what rule systems I'm using, etc., etc. And that way you can interact with me live on stream. And if you are unable to attend or, you know, get online at 11 a.m. Central Time, then just watch them live, because I post them to YouTube. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one.